This is Albright here, who's a former weapons inspector, who is explaining what is the step. If Iran wanted to run to the bomb, how fast could they do it? Here's what he said.
60% enriched uranium is 99% of the way to the weapon grade. Over the last couple of years, Iran's put together this capability to be able to make weapon grade uranium very quickly and to make lots of it.
How close do you think in time were they to being able to build a bomb, and how many do you think they could make at this moment?
They could produce weapon grade uranium within a few days, enough for a bomb. They could have enough for, let's say, 10 to 12 nuclear weapons in a month. I think they need about 6 months to actually make the nuclear weapon, and they have some challenges to finishing up the design and the development steps. So I think 6 months is what they would need. The enriched uranium can come and go. So you do want to get rid of the 60%, but you really do need to destroy the centrifuges themselves.
So you see that if a decision was made, the fastest they could, quote, sprint to a bomb, according to Albright, is about 6 months. And so now then to claim that they were months away would have meant that they had made a decision, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. Well, there's no evidence of that. And in fact, as a matter of fact, and we mentioned a couple of days ago, Tulsi Gabbard, who is accumulating the 18 intelligence agencies of the United States on March 25th, said, no, we see no evidence that they have made a decision, i.e. that timeline that Albright talked about there had still not started, casting a lot of doubt on whether Netanyahu was telling the truth about what they had. Netanyahu, for his part, said, oh, well, I have intelligence that they don't have, and no, we're solid. Trust me, we're not going to show it to you, but trust me, they really were. Well, on the same flight there where Trump was coming back, he was asked about that. He goes, yeah, but what about what Tulsi Gabbard said?
You've always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon, but how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it.
Wow. I don't know if you could hear that last part, but when she said, yeah, but Tulsi Gabbard said on March 25th that they weren't close and they hadn't started one, and he said, I don't care what Tulsi said. I think they do. What? Let that sink in for a minute. Let that ruminate and get to your understanding here. Tulsi Gabbard is the director of national intelligence. It's her job to assemble the best intelligence and to consolidate the intelligence of our best intelligence agencies. And you're talking the CIA, the DIA, all these from the various service branches, etc. All of this, 18 of them, and she compiles them and presents those to the president. And the best advice of the cumulative number of all those is that there's not a nuclear weapons program. It has not started. They have not gone down the road. And the president says, I don't care what they say. I think they do. Then one would logically ask, who are you listening to then? Because it sounds really like she's that Trump is listening to somebody else besides his director of national intelligence that he put in place because he trusts her judgment. And instead, you're listening to somebody else. Well, who else has been talking this way? Well, there are those in the senior administration positions who are lusting for a war with Iran. More on that in just a second. But you also have Benjamin Netanyahu, and it sounds like that he's listening to Benjamin Netanyahu and discarding the advice of his handpicked director of national intelligence. That is a dangerous place, folks, because Netanyahu has vested interest in making Trump believe whatever Netanyahu wants him to believe. He wants to draw Trump in. So, yeah, don't worry. They were about to have a bomb. Trust me. Oh, yeah, don't worry about your troops there. They'll be fine. Yeah, they know how to defend themselves. He's listening to that too. Those are things that he has said on these sound bites that we've shown you right there. And I'm telling you for certain he's wrong on the fact that our troops would be safe and that they know how to defend themselves, because we don't have the technological capacity. And Iran can penetrate what meager defenses that we do have with impunity. And it seems pretty likely to me that he's also wrong on disbelieving Tulsi Gabbard, because that evidence has been going on for a long time. There are many other intelligence agencies around the world who have come to a similar conclusion. That is the consensus of even Western intelligences across the board. And for Trump to just dismiss that and listen to this one guy over here who has strong personal motivation to make you believe what he wants, to draw you into something that helps him, that's a red flag, folks. That's a real problem. If our president is more swayed by somebody else who has motivation to basically take the United States Armed Forces and use them for his purposes, that's a real problem. And if he takes that course of action and then it's proven that our troops are not safe and Iran does start killing them, which they won't do by all accounts if we don't take that offensive action, then he's going to have some hard answers to questions to answer. And we will be asking them, I assure you. But that is something that's real concerning. Now, it isn't just Netanyahu. It's also others that apparently Jack Keane has access to Trump and is able to give him information. And if you wonder what he's saying this morning, check this out.
In my judgment, assist the Israelis in their air campaign by conducting a limited but focused air campaign on using penetration bombing to eliminate the end of that nuclear end state. And that will be a major strategic achievement. That takes off the table. Think of what it does. Takes off the table the thought of a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. It reduces Iran's as a major power broker in the region. Yeah. And for the congressman to say that we've never been at war with Iran, formally, yeah, but they killed 241 Marines in the 80s. They blew up 2 of our embassies in Lebanon and Kuwait and killed hundreds more. They killed scores of our Air Force personnel in the barracks in Saudi Arabia in the 90s. And it's a documented fact that they developed advanced IEDs to focus on U.S. soldiers in the war in Iraq.
Okay, so that long laundry list that Jack was saying right there, by the way, he's trying to get around the 1973 War Powers Act. He is talking about this movement of Representative Massey and Senator Tim Kaine in the U.S. Senate, who are trying to say, hey, hang on a minute. The U.S. Constitution still exists. Article 1 exclusively gives the permission for war-making capacity to the Congress, not to the chief executive of the administration, not to the president of the United States. Doesn't have it. The 1973 War Powers Act specifically says that only with a prior congressional authorization, i.e. like they used in the 2003 in Iraq, or a congressional declaration of war, or a direct attack against American forces or American personnel. None of those 3 things have happened. So what you see Jack Keane trying to do is saying, oh, well, he's going back to 1980 with all kinds of attacks and saying that, just claiming that Iran was responsible for some of these. So, yeah, that's actually been met. Americans have been attacked by Iran. So, yeah, let's go get them. Sure, it's 40 years later, but, hey, better late than never, right? That's nonsense. That's ridiculous. That is clearly not what the law intended. They were talking about near-term stuff. They weren't saying, yeah, something happened, decades ago. Let's go ahead and kill them now because you want to right now. That's just papering over and just disregarding the law. You have no law if that's the case. There is no law and order, which the administration claims it wants to impose in this country, and yet it will just shred it and disregard it if it doesn't happen to work out. Keene's trying to make that case right here. And by the way, he's also unwittingly undercutting and undermining our own behavior, because what he's talking about, what Iran did, especially in the Iraq war, it's alleged that Iran helped with these EFPs, these I can't remember what it stands for now. It's these projectiles that was an IED that it was very, very lethal, that was hitting some Americans, especially in the height of the insurgency war that we had there around the 2005 timeframe. And a lot of those were the EFP projector or penetrators were allegedly come from Iran. Well, that is fundamentally, whether that's true or not, I don't know. There's disputes on that. I don't personally have any concrete evidence one way or the other. I know the allegations that's in place. But that is fundamentally exactly what we do on a daily basis in the Ukraine-Russia war. We give Ukraine all kinds of lethal capabilities, intelligence, long-range missiles, etc., that kill Russians on a daily basis. So you want to, on the one hand, say that because Iran allegedly did that against our troops there, we should go kill them and fight a war against them. And then on the other hand, you say, but Russia shouldn't do that. Even though we're providing things that kill Russians, they shouldn't, because that's different. That's a proxy war. See, that only works against people who don't care about the truth, who don't care about the rule of law. You can do whatever you want to do. You just say whatever words you choose to, but the bottom line is we're going to do whatever the hell we feel like doing, and we'll kill anyone who disagrees with us. That's what he's asking to do. There either is the rule of law or there's not. Either we have a law that we abide by and try to insist that others abide by it as well, or there is no. You cannot wantonly violate your own constitution. You can't violate the international laws that exist. You can't violate these kinds of provisions and help other countries kill other soldiers and then use the same reverse logic to say we should go after these if you want a world of rule of law. Because what you're setting up, Jack, is to give impetus and motivation for others to ignore the rule of law to our harm. If they find that the rule of law is inconvenient for them, is like, well, no, I know what the law says, but you're not worried about people going to hold you accountable. You're not worried about censure, etc. Then you'll be taking a lot more provocative actions and saying, if there's not a cost to this, then why not take some action to it? You don't want Russia to be learning this lesson, my friend. You don't want Russia to go, oh, I see. So it's cool to go and kill this guy because of their proxy help against your enemies in Iraq. So I guess it's cool for us to go after you because you're helping our enemy in Ukraine. You don't want Russia to go down that place. Now, probably it's not like Russia didn't ever think about this before or wasn't aware of this before, but so far their calculations have been the cost, and part of it is a diplomatic concern about being seen as being too provocative. That has been part of the constraints there. But if you loosen that to where Russia feels like, well, we're not going to get any pushback, they may take some more of those provocative actions, and they may act on the same logic that you're setting up. You don't want people to go on the logic of might makes right, and if I have the power, I will use it regardless of any laws. You don't want that, because that could come back to haunt us. And at a time when we may least be willing to be able to handle it, when we may be weakened in some other areas, perhaps in the future, we have some economic weaknesses. Perhaps in the future, we have some military setbacks. And then now all of a sudden, we're not as in strong a place. And now then our adversaries can say, now then we're not worried as much about your counteractions, so we're going to take more provocative actions. That will come back to haunt us, folks. So I don't care how much of a lust you have for attacking Iran. I don't care how much you hate Iran, hate the mullahs. I don't care. We must follow the rule of law, or we do so to our own harm. That is my biggest concern.